Hey folks, the time has finally arrived. We are getting ready to put this building up. We're gonna take it slow, we're gonna be safe, and we're gonna just roll with it. See how fast it goes, how slow it goes, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna do it and do it right. So we've been busy this morning getting our bolts and stuff together, starting to put up some scaffolding. So here you can see we've got a single layer of scaffolding there. We're going to put that up on the wheels here in a minute, and we've got a double layer of scaffolding. We don't have the cross beams yet, but so the decking isn't on, but the structure is up. I think that's as high as we're going to go. Those are like 6 foot per level, so 12 foot up to the top platform, and the wall height is 16 foot, so we should be good to go on that. Got it on wheels already, and on this smooth slab it rolls around pretty easy, so that's good. Nice and easy to maneuver, move it where we need it. Should work great. We've got a bag of washers here, bag of 5/8 inch 2-inch long bolts there. So that's primarily what we'll use for bolting the columns and the rafters together. And what we got to do next is start pulling out parts. So we've got some columns to pull out of there and unstack so that we can get to the rafters. I think the way we're going to do it is we're going to get the rafters out. We'll put you got to take two long pieces of rafter to put together, so those will be bolted together in the middle, laying on the slab. So I think we're going to do that first, put together 2 of those. We're going to start on this end section down here. So the first section we're going to put together is section 2 and section 3. Section 1 is down on the piers out there. Since there's no side girts, that's all an open area. We'll save that till later. We're going to do this one first because this has X bracing for cables. So in theory, we should be able to put this all together, not tighten up the nuts, just snug them, put everything together, and then work on plumbing and leveling everything. And as we do that, we tighten it all up. In theory, if this thing comes out square plumb level on this section, then as we build other sections onto it, in theory it should all plumb and level easily. And this one, like I say, it has some X bracing, so that's why we're starting with this one. This next section here also has X bracing, so we could just as easily start with this middle section. Maybe we'll have to rethink that and see which way we want to go, but we'll put up one section at a time. So we'll want to build the rafters in advance, so basically we can put up 2 wall columns that go on these bolts here, and they're 20 feet apart. So we'll put up 2 of those, and then we'll tie them together with some girts that basically go across in the wall to tying them together. And then we'll go to the other side and do the exact same thing, and then in theory lift the rafters and bolt those on, tying the 2 sides together. That'll give us the strength. And then of course we got purlins and everything that go on the roof, so lots of parts and pieces to figure out. And we're gonna do it one piece at a time as it goes, but we don't want to start putting it up until we got some of it laid out and ready, so that we can put it together, and if the wind picks up or anything, we've got strength inherently built into it. So that's the plan. Let's see how it goes. Upon further review of the plans, Bay 3, the middle section, has the majority of the cable bracing, so we started with frame line 3 and 4. Once you know where to start, it's best to pre-position as many parts as possible. As we continued with the build, we were constantly learning. The big thing here, I'll tell you, don't fight the steel. Let the machine do the work. You don't have to be a good operator to be able to get the column right over the anchor bolts. It was actually pretty easy. Just take your time, let the machine do it, and once the column is right over your anchor bolts, then all the person on the ground should have to do really is just turn them and maybe move them an inch or so to make everything line up and drop it right down onto the bolts, and then put your nuts on and bolt it down. The more you can do as far as plumbing and leveling everything as you go, I think you'll be better off in the long run. This was really pretty easy for us. Here, of course, we couldn't fit the telehandler at a 90-degree angle to get these girts up, so we did them by hand. They're not too heavy, so it wasn't that hard. The big thing here is knowing your bolt pattern. So the most common bolt pattern is the girts tie to the columns on clips. Those clips typically have 4 holes, which line up with 4 holes on the girts. And you're only going to put 2 bolts in diagonally. Don't get carried away and put bolts in every single hole that you got, or you will run out of bolts, as we did. Mainly just put 2 bolts in diagonally, and then of course once you put your next section up, you'll have overlap, and you'll put 2 bolts at the ends of each overlap and 2 bolts diagonally in your clip, and that is the most common bolt pattern. If your manufacturer says something different, then follow what they tell you. Pre-positioning helps a lot. Know not only what parts and pieces you gotta have, but also which bolts do you use, because typically every section with different pieces tends to use a different type of bolt. So the more you know that in advance and have your wrenches, sockets, etc. It's great to have spud wrenches to use to line up holes and so forth. Definitely important. Another lesson learned here is once you get your section up like this, where you got 2 columns and your girts tying them together, stop building at that point and put your bracing up. This was a mistake we made. We waited a couple of days to put bracing up, and had we have had a pop-up windstorm, which commonly happens in Texas, it could have been a huge disaster. Luckily, we didn't have any of that happen, but had we have known ahead of time that we needed to brace everything right out of the gate, we probably would have done a better job at that. So make sure that you brace everything as you go. If there's no cable bracing on the section, then use temporary bracing using cargo straps with J-hooks works the best. And then go ahead and move to your other side and start putting up your other section. It's basically rinse and repeat, doing the same thing over again. And here, of course, we had the space to work with the telehandler, so we let the machine do the work again and got those pieces up no problem. Once all those pieces are up, again, brace them so that both sides are braced and everything's plumbed, and then the next step will be to put your first rafter up. I recommend, if it's late in the day, wait till the next day to get rafters, because those rafters have a lot of sway in them. They'll sway in or out a couple of feet actually. So in my opinion, best to get one rafter up, then get the second rafter up, and then start tying everything together with the purlins. We did that wrong again. I would say it was a mistake. We let it sit overnight. We got both pieces up like this, no bracing, and then we put a rafter on, again, no bracing, and we left it overnight with that one rafter on just like that. Had a storm popped up, that could have been a disaster, but luckily it wasn't, and we moved on the next morning. That's going to wrap up this first day. We appreciate you watching. As always, God bless, and we'll see you on the next one.